there's been a lot of states recently that have made laws that are now prohibiting cell phones inside of school. Now, obviously, since I am still in the public education system and I am resided in one of these states that are affected by these laws, my peers are never too happy about this law. Obviously, they would prefer to have their phone, stay occupied. Obviously, you were a generation raised by the internet, raised by cell phones. I can't blame them. But, I feel like I'm one of the few that actually sees where this law is going. I just made a video, go check it out, about how the government is using kids as a justification for mass censorship and mass tracking. But I truly believe that they're just trying to do the best by the kids for this one. If you're going to take cell phones away from kids, right, the only plausible explanation is either that the kids aren't paying attention or that these cell phones are distracting them from school. Now, I'm not sitting here saying that, the national school system doesn't have its flaws and is severely flawed and probably will be a long, long time before we see it fixed. All I'm saying is that cell phones definitely are not meant to be in the school building, couldn't they be implemented in curriculum if used wisely? Undeniably, yes. You can use cell phones in the curriculum, but very rarely, in my cases, have they ever been used in any substantial way in the curriculum that was beneficial to the students. Really, the only problem I see is, or the only usual occurrence that I see with the cell phones is just distractions and, just photos circulating across the school. Really, I guess that doesn't really bother me. It doesn't really, shouldn't bother anybody. Really, at the end of the day, all cell phones do is just, distract you, keep you from keeping your educational goals and reaching your full potential. At the end of the day, if you're not doing your work, the only really thing to do, unless you want to read a book or something, I highly doubt you want to do that, is get on your phone. And that's what kids will do, The only really reason in the public education sector that you shouldn't be passing with at least a 3.0 GPA is you're just putting in no effort. The school system's not that hard at the end of the day, especially just regular school. It's no difficult to any extent. So if you're not graduating at least a 3.0 GPA, 3.5 plus or whatever, you're really just putting in no effort. So with this law, these new laws in some of these states, the real point that they're trying to do is just get the kids to do better. At the end of the day, I can see where people are getting frustrated because, it is, kind of impeding on your free will. And, I've kind of listened to some of the arguments that the kids had, but they don't really make a lot of sense, Like one of the kids I was talking to, it was like, what if there's a mass shooting at the school? How am I going to call my mom? First off, if there's a mass shooting at your school, you shouldn't be worrying about calling your mom. You should be worrying about your survivability chances and what you're going to do to survive that situation. First off, there's completely, utterly, should have thought about that one before you spoke. But other than that, I won't comment on the other one is, I text my mom a lot. Like, yeah, I love my mom too. I text her every now and then. But like, you can't go 8 hours without texting your mom. Might do a little good to do without it. That's all I'm saying. With that being said, undoubtably technology is a good thing. I would say cell phones, I would say they're a good thing. Communications is a good thing, really advance the communication aspect in there. But really, if you're saying that, cell phones need to be used in school, we need to have our cell phones in school, other than rare circumstances where you need to communicate and stuff like that, I really don't think they should be used in school. I think it really is better to communicate face-to-face, really is advancing human communication even more because, especially nowadays, people talk about, people don't want to talk to each other because of the phones, Then you get rid of those, you have to talk to people face-to-face, no really option. With that being said, kind of a long rant here, but, I do think that the cell phone policies that these states are implementing is undeniably a good thing, probably a little bit of a hot take, especially among my peers and my generation. But I do positively think that it is a good thing. And we'll see where these laws goes, whether they're repealed or not after this public semester education or school year. With that being said, stay safe and stay hydrated.